Yeah, I guess there's some part of me that's a real storyteller. I like to tell stories. I have a lot of stories in my life. I mean, I tend to shape everything into an anecdote immediately as soon as it happens. Tom's Diner was written in Tom's Restaurant, or about, it's really about Tom's Restaurant on 112th Street and Broadway in New York City. And it was really written from the point of view of my friend Brian, who is a photographer, and had made a comment to me one day that he felt that as a photographer, he felt like he saw his whole life as though it were like through a pane of glass. And he always felt like he was the witness to a lot of things, but he was never really involved in them. So I was sitting at Tom's Restaurant one morning, and suddenly I guess I got this weird feeling. It came over me, and I thought, well, if I were Brian today, how would I be perceiving these different things? And in a way, it was supposed to be like slightly humorous, and not entirely to be taken totally seriously. And also, I thought of it from a male point of view. But so that's how Tom's Diner came to be written. And I originally heard it with piano in back, but I don't play piano, so so it's a cappella. There is a real boy named Luca somewhere in New York City who I used to see on the street where I used to live. Although the story in the song is not really the story as it happened in real life. You know, I have no idea if the real kid Luca had the problem that the kid has in the song, which is I guess it's never obviously stated, but if you read the words, you can tell that the kid has been like physically abused. Some people look at that song and think that it could be also a woman's point of view who's abused by her husband or by someone else. But I had originally written it from the point of view of this 9-year-old boy that I'd seen in the street without really talking to him. Well, Gypsy came to be written because I guess in 1977 I was the camp counselor for this camp. I was the disco dance and folk singing counselor, and spent most of the time when I was not disco dancing teaching small children how to sing, Leonard Cohen songs and songs like "Living Suicide," which was my own composition, of course, and when they were trying desperately to get me to sing, "Leaving on a Jet Plane." So I found this friend in the boys' camp a fourth of a mile up the road who was a Dadaist painter from Liverpool and had been sort of heavily involved in the anarchy in the UK movement going on at that time. Somehow he found himself in the Adirondacks teaching arts and crafts, much to his surprise and everyone else's. And we became really good friends. And I guess we had kind of a falling out at the very end there, but I still wrote Gypsy for him and gave it to him as a present, and he in return gave me his bandana, which he used to wear around his head while painting, which I still have. And no, actually, in the last tour of England, when we went through Liverpool, I was thinking, but no, nothing ever came of it, and I don't know where he is or what he's doing or what movement he's involved with lately. And as to whether I followed the right career, I don't know. Lately, I feel a longing to go back to dancing, I must admit. I don't know if I would actually be a disco dancer anymore, but I hope to do some kind of dancing in some of the videos, like maybe in Solitude Standing. I would like to at least use gesture, if not exactly gyrations. I'd say a good 3 or 4 songs came out of the last month and a half. Some of them were written up in Bearsville, which is unusual for me because usually I write the songs first and I carry them around with me and perform them before I go committing them to anything. But I'd say Solitude Standing and Ironbound and In the Eye was kind of reworked up there. Casper Hauser was written up there, so like 4 out of the 10 songs. Solitude Standing, well, first of all, Solitude, I guess I should explain, in the song is a character. You could say she's personified. Okay, so she's a woman. The way I saw it was Solitude was a woman standing by a window. I guess I'd seen her as a kind of a third character in a relationship. That there's, you always have the man and you have the woman, but then sometimes there's this third character who's calling one of them. And that's how I'd seen Solitude Standing. But she seemed as real to me at that point as a real person. And I don't know if everybody perceives Solitude in that way, but I think some people really do. Ironbound is a real section of Newark, New Jersey. There is a place in Newark called Ironbound. It's the Ironbound section. It's called that because the tracks run around it. But I was there, I guess, about 8 months ago, and we were trying to get the car fixed. And suddenly we went by this school, and it said Ironbound School. And I looked at it, and I thought, God, that's weird. I hadn't realized that was the name of the town. And I thought it seemed like a vocational school, Ironbound. And I thought, what kind of things would kids learn in an Ironbound school? Like what? So this kind of got me thinking about the whole concept, Ironbound and what it might mean and the different meanings that word could have. But it's actually taken from that section of Newark. Fancy poultry is a pretty bizarre little thing, and you'll probably have to hear it yourself. It's like reading a butcher's sign, okay, in a kind of waltzing 3/4 time. Okay. I find it very amusing, and it's the coda to Ironbound. Then we have In the Eye. I guess that's a song that kind of poses the question, like if you were to threaten my life right this minute, what would I do? Probably. And that song answers that question. Okay, it's like, if pushed to the extreme, what would be likely to happen? So that's what that song is. And then you have Night Vision at the end of the first side, which is, I had thought of as a kind of a lullaby. It's sort of an abstract lullaby, but I think of it as a mother watching her kid fall asleep. Calypso's half woman, half goddess who lives on an island. And you can find her on the first page of The Odyssey by Homer. And it's written from her point of view. It's not only a song about a goddess, though, because I think that would be really abstract. And I wanted to write the song about the woman half of her, who knew that, she knew her lover was going to leave her in the morning. And I was just wondering, what would a woman do in that situation? She would probably remind herself of everything that she had and everything she was before he came along and try and kind of bolster up for her. It's kind of inevitable. And Language is the next song. All songs have two parts, the music and the words. In this case, the two of them are very firmly, kind of equally. The words don't really make sense without the music, and the music on its own doesn't really make sense without the words. The two of them really go firmly together. And it's about how words are basically ineffectual and sometimes frustrating. And then you have a really weird song at the very end called Wooden Horse, or Caspar Hauser's song. Now, this is very, very esoteric. Caspar Hauser was a man who lived in Germany in the beginning of the 1800s. He had been locked in a basement for the first 17 years of his life, basically because he was supposed to become heir to the throne. And they didn't want him to get the throne, so they locked him away instead of killing him. So what happened, and this is supposedly a true story, although I don't know. But anyway, it's a legend. So eventually he comes out from underground, and he has to adjust to society, and people begin to suspect that he's heir to the throne, and he's murdered before he can get to it. So it's kind of, again, it's a point of view song, and it's his point of view. This album has a lot of points of view. It has, Solitude's point of view. You have Luca's point of view. You have Calypso's point of view. Ironbound, I'd say, is the only song without a point of view. There's a chemistry in this group of people that seems to work, especially with the new songs like Solitude Standing. That was a song that I'd come in with basically 3 chords and the melody line and some of the lyrics. And in 2 days, the whole thing was done. It was just written, and we'd all found the right parts for it, and it just came springing out. Right after this first album was made, I started going on tour, and Mike Viseglia started playing bass with me. So he's kind of the constant. He's still with me. Then shortly after that, we got a new keyboard player, and now we have Anton Sanko playing keyboards. He's been playing with us since April of last year. And then over the summer, we got a new guitarist, and his name is Mark Schulman. And then 2 weeks before we started recording, we got a new drummer, and his name is Steve Ferreira. I kept thinking, well, why am I here? Why am I here? The Prince's Trust. Like, what am I doing here exactly? And I remember calling my band up hysterical the night before, going, "Oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing here?" And then after that, I didn't think about it anymore. It was like, I did think it was a little strange that I'd never seen most of these people perform, because I still haven't really seen that many rock and roll acts. And here I am, I'm trying desperately to look over the head of David Bowie so I can see Mick Jagger on stage. And I'm going, this is really weird. you know, here I'm Paul McCartney, could you duck your head down a minute so I can like see Tina Turner on stage? Thank you. There I was, and it was, I thought, well, what am I going to do? Should I come out and sing Marlena first? How can I, as a single person without my band, I'm the only one here without my band, what should I do? So I thought, well, I'll start with Tom's Diner. If they really hate it, then I can just leave. This will be a real test. Like, if I can make 8,000 people shut up with my a cappella little ditty, then maybe it'll be okay. And it was. It turned out to be just fine. Well, working with Left of Center, at first I remember having a few misgivings. I remember thinking or first of all, I remember it being 2:30 in the morning the night before I was supposed to come in and sing it on the demo tape, and like scrabbling through my mind, going, what in the world would rhyme with strip, and how can I put this together in such a way that I could still feel that I could sing it with conviction. So even though, I had my doubts about it as a song. I wouldn't say it's the most experimental thing I've ever done, or, I wouldn't say I exactly go out on a limb in it. It gave me confidence, at least, that I could do something that sounded powerful and that I wouldn't get some kind of huge reaction. I found most people to be really supportive of it here in America. I guess my ideals or something, it was like, when you're a kid and you're in your room and you think about the future and you listen to records and you think it's going to be a certain way in your mind. And I remember doing that at 14 and 15 and saying, I'm never going to write these like pop tunes and like try and write a top 40 hit. How disgusting, So there I was like writing Left of Center going, I don't know about this. So some part of me is still feeling like that adolescent kid going, I'm not going to do that, when I was 17 and I had a bunch of songs, and there was a producer from Columbia Records who had approached me at that time and said that my songs were kind of poetic, but that I had no top 40 songs, but that if I could write these lyrics, surely I could write, something that could be a top 40 hit. And I was totally offended. I was like, oh, you must be crazy. I'm not even going to talk to you anymore. I'm not even going to look at you. So I didn't. And I went on for, the next 9 years, playing in every folk club in the Northeast. Suddenly I realized that at 27 years old, I felt like I'd achieved everything I'd wanted to. I wanted to make an album. I wanted to get a house. And I made an album, and I got a house. And I was like, oh, well, now what? And, and then there was the pressure for the second album. And I was like, well, I made my album. You have to understand, in 1976, no one was saying, all the encouragement that I was getting was negative. It was like, are you crazy? What are you, a folk singer? You are a folk singer in 1976. Look, I was getting comments like, they're running out of wax, and you just better not hold your breath. It's like not only won't you get it because you're introverted and you're a singer-songwriter, but they're running out of vinyl, and someone actually told me that. So I was like, oh wow. I'm used to having to fight to win an audience over. And one of the things that had made me slightly uncomfortable was the very vocal appreciation of the audience. Because I'm never unappreciative of an audience, but I don't quite understand the screaming and yelling aspect of it. And when you're up on a stage and there's 2,000 people are screaming at you, it can be overwhelming. I never, want to teach the audience anything, or I never feel like I have a specific point I want to make. I guess in all the songs I've written, I guess I hope that by showing people different points of view that they examine their own life to some degree, that they see that their own beliefs are not absolute. Because I'm not really interested in people's beliefs. I'm interested in why they believe what they believe, or how they came to what they believe. That's why one reason why I don't write political songs is because I'm not interested in inflicting my own viewpoint on an audience. I think it's offensive to do that. So I guess I hope in some way that by showing an audience different sides of people that they could examine their own beliefs and see that, they're not absolute, and that they could question why they believe certain things, or not take their own lives for granted. But I think I tried to do that with some of the stuff on the first album too, like Small Blue Thing. It's a song from an unusual angle. It's like presenting different faces of something, I guess myself, although I don't think of myself as, I don't think of that I am kind of projecting my own personality. I guess I feel more scientific than that. I feel like I'm always examining evidence, and it's not, I'm not interested in foisting my beliefs on a multitude of people. I guess the other theme that runs through it is, I guess, solitude, like the title track says, which in some ways is ironic because I've never been less solitary in my life. I mean, now I travel with a band and I have, managers and producers, and I deal with people all day long. But in other ways, I'm probably as solitary as I've ever been, and all the characters in the album are solitary in some extreme way. They all find themselves alone in their circumstances.